Okay, so let's see if we can start integrating these web services that we've implemented for the user and access from from our Angular application, right? The components, the services, we need to refactor them so that they can communicate with the server. So I've created a couple of slides that I encourage you to take a look at if you go to the course materials, which now hopefully is available. And there's a section here for service-side programming. And there should be slides that go along with this that walk you through using HTTP service from the client. So let's go over them real quick. So for instance, this gets you started. So today we're going to be looking at using it from using login and whatnot for the user services. But here gives you an idea on how you might do this for the website, right? For accessing website list of websites, a particular website, creating a new website, updating a website. So here it shows you creating a model for the website, which you might have created for the last assignment, perhaps created a mock for the websites, and made available all the data for the websites through a web service, right? And you might have created all the CRUD operations for websites, being able to create a new website, find a website, retrieve all the websites, and whatnot. Yes, and your code might have looked something like this, where you have you're creating an injectable service, and here's one of the 4 or 5 CRUD operations. Here's find all websites. Yes, and right now it's just returning the list of all websites. Right, it's very, very trivial. And from the you might have declared this to be a provider so that it can be used and injected into your components. You might have injected it into your components, and in it you might have retrieved all the websites, perhaps filtered by the developer, who's the parent of these websites, right? All right, so this is what you might have had already in the previous assignment. Right, this is probably where you are right now. Okay, what we want to be able to do is we want to instead we want to be able to retrieve data from the service, right? From these web services we've just implemented. To be able to do that, we're going to need the HTTP module, right? The HTTP module is going to allow us to make HTTP queries back to the server, right? From our Angular client, right? From our Angular client, we want to make a GET request, a POST request, a PUT request, a delete request, right? From the Angular, asking, modifying, creating data on the server. Okay. So one of the first things we'll need to do is to import the HTTP module from our app module, right? So let's do that. Right. So from our app module, from our service, and we have our app module here, we're going to load the HTTP module. Right. So let's import here. Import the HTTP module. There it is. Right. And again, my IDE doesn't like single quote, double quotes. So let's make it happy. There it is. And we're going to declare in the imports. Right. So this says HTTP module in the imports. There we go. Right. So now it's available throughout our framework. Right. So the next thing that we're going to be needing is creating a web service. So we already have a web service for the user, right? This one walks you through creating web services for a website, right? And you can take the same exact implementation and start creating for pages, for widgets, and whatnot, right? So here's, for instance, creating for a web service. Here we have a constant array for all the websites, and these would be the same websites we gave you for assignment number 3. Right, you can copy and paste it in here, and here we have find all websites. And notice we have a map to an API/website. See that? that would return all the websites. In your particular case, it would be probably be /API/user/user ID/website, right? So that would return the websites for a particular user, right? So you won't actually return all the websites. You would return only those websites whose developer ID is equal to the user ID that you would pass in, right? So it's a little more involved, right? Right, so here's returning all the websites. Okay, so meanwhile, on the client, we want to be able to access this from the client. And so in our particular case, is from our login, right? From our login, from our user service, we have all these users, right? That we want to be able to find users by credential. We like to find users by ID, right? So let's take a look at this one first. Find user by credentials. Notice that it has the same logic that we're implementing on the server, right? So this logic is no longer useful here, right? We like to be able to use the server to do this instead, right? So we like to replace this. We like to replace this by going out to the server for this data, right? Now, because I did that, probably it broke my application. Oh, I don't have it running. Okay, it didn't break. Oh, probably it's not running anyway. It's not running anyway, my Angular application, so that's good. All right, so instead what I want to be able to do here is bring the HTTP service why didn't ask me? Oh, there it is. There it is. HTTP. Why didn't import it? Yes, that one. Or from where? From Angular HTTP. From Angular HTTP, from Angular HTTP, there it is. Okay, and we're going to inject it into the constructor of our user service. Right? We don't have a constructor. We are going to inject it here, constructor, and we're going to declare it as private, and it's going to be our HTTP local variable, which is of type HTTP. There it is. Okay, now we have the HTTP service. Right? What we want to do here is that we want to replace this. Instead of using the local users array here, we want it to go out to the server. So to go out to the server is we're going to use the HTTP here, right? And we're going to do a get. This is going to generate an HTTP get request that goes out. It has to look very, very similar to the request that we're using, passing the URL and passing the password, right, along there. So probably we want to create the URL first here. The URL will be something such as http://localhost:3100. It will be API/user/ and then the query string, right? Username equal, and we have the password here plus username. Username, and then we continue. Right, we're going to continue here, ampersand, password equal, and then the password here. Okay, so that's the URL, and my IDE doesn't like double quotes. Okay, this is a constant URL, and we're going to pass the URL as an argument here. Right, this dot HTTP dot get URL. Make sense? Right? Now, this is going to return to us a response from the server, right? Which we would, hopefully, it's a JSON response that we need to be able to map it. We need to parse it as an actual JSON response, right? So to do that, we're going to use the function map that is going to parse out the response from the response, right? And we're going to execute the following code once it gets parsed from the HTTP response. Okay, what I'd like to be able to do is parse it. What I'd like to be able to do is to do a response.json is going to convert it. It's going to parse it into JSON and it's going to create an object, a JSON object, which we then like to be able to return as our output. Okay, why you don't like the map? Can I get response? Do we not have response? Oh, we never include a response. Here we go. Response. Is that what you're asking for? Map type error cannot read property get of undefined. What am I missing here? Return. Am I missing a return? Let's see. HTTP return that this get dot map response cons. Yeah, I think that's it. Property map this dot HTTP dot get. What don't you like? Ooh, what's this? I think this is just spacings. There's the URL. What don't you like? All right, so probably it's because the what do you call it? The component is expecting JSON, right? Instead, what it's getting back is not JSON here. Instead, what it's getting back is is what is called a promise that says that, hey, at some point, right, I'm going to call you back, right? It's a mechanism that allows folks that are making asynchronous calls not to block waiting for the response to come back, right? And to register for a callback at some point in the future, right? So let's go back to the component that uses this service. I think it's the login that uses it. Let's see, where is our component? Where is our source, model, views, user? Must be here, login. There it is, components. So here's the component. So the component here also should be complaining. It's using login. There it is, find user by credential, passing a username and password. This is no longer returning an immediate user. It is no longer returning an immediate. Instead, what's happening here? I'm going to refactor this and say I'm going to call this user find user by credential. This is what instead what it's going to return is a promise that I need to register for a callback. That at some point in the near future, hopefully, right, it's going to call me back with the value, with the data that it comes back from the server. And the way to do that is to subscribe to this callback that at some point will come back from the future, and hopefully it'll come back with an actual user object of type user. Do we have a user model? We do, right? Do we have a user model here? Yes, we do. Okay. And the double quotes. There's our user. And then when it comes back, it's gonna call this function where now we have that user. We can check to see now if we do have a user. If we do have a user, then we're going to navigate to that user's ID. Right? So let's see if we have. Did that fix this? Why is this still not happy? Where's map? Map. Observable response. Find user by credentials. Cons dot return response. There's our response. Okay. All right. So let's start our Angular. Let's see if we can if it's happy if we start it. Let's go to terminal and let's start ng serve. and our server is running. Is it? I think our server was running. Let's see if our server is running. Where was it? I think it's this one. No, that's not it. That's our local host. Okay, that's it. Is it still running? Yes. And let's. Oops. Oh no. It's still complaining about map. Property map does not exist in observable. No. Did I not include something here? Oh, I know. I'm missing something. I am missing something. Yeah, it's I am missing this the abstraction of the low level Ajax implementation. So we have RxJS Rx. So let's import that as well. Import RxJS Rx. RxJS Rx. Is that all I need? Yes. Okay, it's happy now. All right, let's restart this. Okay, and let's now navigate here. Login. There we go. So we are in the login, and we can inspect to see if we have any network connectivity here. So we're going to start off with Alice and login. Notice that it went out to the server. See that? Went out to the server, and it generated the request. Went out, and there's the URL that was generated over here. See, localhost 3100, username Alice, password QQ, and it came back as empty. It came back as empty, right? Probably because there was nobody with Alice and QQ. Probably it's Alice. Let's try that again. Let me do a login. Notice that it worked this time, right? So let's update, and notice that if I click on that, notice that it comes back with a JSON object from the server, right? As opposed to an empty JSON object, right? And our login mechanism worked, right? It checked to see if there was a user, then it went over to the profile. If the user was an empty object, then it didn't let us log in. Make sense? Right? Now, the only problem here is that the profile function, the profile is still using the old implementation, right? Still using the local array of the users, right? Instead, it needs to also go out to the server and fetch the user, but by ID, not by username and password, but by ID, right? And in this case, we do have the ID. It's 123, right? And that's what it's going to use to go out to the server. And let's see what complaint user request path that segment. Okay, is that so it navigated there? All right, so probably is because we haven't refactored the profile. Let's now work on the profile and fetch the user by ID next. Okay, so let's stop this.